Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our UV map real quick. So I'm going to select everything and go into UV editor. So the idea was for you to lay out all the UVs per ID color map using the UDIM tiles. So this is the whole idea. So you needed to go in here and lay out the UVs, and I started off with the blue screen. Here's my UV ID Word document. So you can see that I've got the UD tiles. Let's get that Word document back up again. I just lost it. So we've got, I can't click on here, so here's my UV document, Module 6, UDIM tile UV space. So 1001 is my blue screen. That's where I'm going to have a HUD, heads-up display interface, and what I wanted to do is make that as large as I can. So this one does not fit the textile density of 40, okay? That's the only one. I raised that up a little bit higher so you'll see that. 1002 to 1007, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, so we start with 2 to 7, right? Is the burnt orange, so I laid those UVs out. And then on 1008 I went to dark gray, okay? And then 1009 I have the door metal, okay? And 1010, 1011 I've got the floor texture, medium gray, 12 to 16 up here. And then because this starts off with 11 and 12, so 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then 17, 18 off-white, okay? And then 19 I don't have in here, but those are my pipes. So I should have, let me update this. Okay. So those are my pipes. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so that is how I laid out my UVs. Okay, so let's take a little closer look, and you guys can pause this if you want to look at it. So that's how I laid out my UVs. Okay, and you can see I have them packed about as good as I can get. Don't fret if you have more than 19. Go for it. You can have 20, 21, 22. You can have up to 30 if you want. It will slow your system down a little bit because it's got to create all those UV maps. But we're actually creating them as a 2048 by 2048. Yes, there's no way some of this efficiency just went down the tubes because you're going to have some empty space. But since we're using UDIMs, it's not as critical. It's still important, but it's not as critical as if you're trying to pack everything in one UV space, right? UDIM tiles gives you a little more breathing room to allow you to have dead space in some of your UV maps. It's okay. I'm not going to count off when you're using UDIMs. If we were doing the old style, old school way of packing everything into one space, yeah, I would get on you about that and probably count off, but no, not with this. Okay, so that's nice. That's that's kind of the forgiveness part of UDIM tiles. Okay, so now you see how I've got that laid out. Now it's time to get everything set up, and we need to make sure that these tiles are rotated in an efficient way and move down. Let's go ahead and set up our grid snap and get those lined up. Okay. Alright, so we need to have now the next step is to get everything set up for baking and getting everything exported, and then we've got to bake the maps and Substance Painter. So we've got to go through all this. Let's get all this set up. I'm going to pause the video, but you know how to do that now. Alright, so I went and paused the video. Now we're back again, and I just got these situated. And you're going to want to make sure your high poly is the same. So my high poly is already set up properly. So that's the idea. This is where we're going to leave off. You saw how I had my UV maps completed, and you saw, and the thing is with the low poly, the video basically is that I'll select everything, I'll duplicate it, create a new layer. So I'll duplicate these, create a new layer, and then what I'll do is I will take these, select them, and then triangulate them. Okay, that's the idea. Okay. All right, so I got these broken into parts. You can see the little black, basically transition between the videos, but I put it all together in one video here. So we're going to take you through the next part, which is get everything set up to export these pieces. All right, and then import them and bake them into Substance Painter. All right. Okay, one of the first things we need to do in Maya is to make sure that everything is laid out exactly like this. I've got a gap between these two here, and I need to get rid of the back of this, all the faces back here. So we're just gonna basically make sure that low res and the high res are occupying the same space. Okay. Right, so I'm going to go in here and turn off the triangulate. So we got the high poly back here. Now I noticed that the high poly is still pretty thick. The door is pretty thick. Okay. So also I combined everything too. Let's get that taken away here real quick. So I'm going to go to mesh and separate those real quick and take you through the entire process that I went through. Let's go ahead and separate those two as well. Now you won't have to do this, but I just need to get those separated. There we go. So the process is that I had to flip these down. Again, these are flipped down. Okay. So make sure that now these are not the pivot points are all messed up because of the combine, right? Alright, so what we're going to do is make sure that your layout looks like this. Everything's triangulated, right? Everything looks good here. And all the UVs are laid out okay. So let's go ahead and check that out. Make sure the UV editor, everything's laid out okay. Let's go ahead and select everything. Here we go. Yep. Alright, so UDIMs are good. Looking good there. So I just need to do a couple things here. So everything's triangulated, right? This is the low poly triangulated. I just need to get rid of these faces on the back here, and we'll do a couple more things. So I'm going to go ahead and control 1, just isolate that. It's really easy to do that. Faces, I'm going to select the faces here. And deselect, go hold down the control key and go right in the front, right down the middle like that. And you'll notice that this is what we have left. Okay. So because I'm going to mirror that over, I don't need these at all. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete those. There we go. So we just have the back. There we go. So the back is gone. Okay, that's fine. That's kind of what we want anyway. And now the high poly, unfortunately, is too big, too wide. So we're going to select both of those together, and let's go to the side view here. There we go. And you can see we've got some issues with that. So I'm going to go in here And I'm going to move that back. If I can, there it is. Let's go ahead and center pivot that. And let's go ahead and turn off the grid snap. We want that just to be on top. Hit the F key and control. Let's go ahead and select both of those again. Control 1, let's get the top, there we go. So let's get really close here and select this and just move that so it just is right on top of it. And we want to kind of go outside of right there. You can see how we're kind of moving it out. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the Alt key and we'll move that out just a little bit like that. There we go. Just want to encompass it. They're on the kind of the same page here. I'm just doing 1 pixel out. There we go. And that should work. That should do it. Okay. I don't need the back of this, so I could probably take the back off of the high poly. So I'm going to isolate the high poly here real quick so I don't mess anything up. Go to the face mode and let's just get rid of this back. We don't need it. So I'm cutting it in half, okay, and deleting that part. There we go. So this is what we have. There we go. That's the finished piece. Alright, that looks pretty good. One thing I might do here real quick is at this edge right here, vertex, let's go ahead and, go ahead and Control Z, and I'm going to move those vertices, those back vertices. Let's see if we try that again. Just the back vertices like this, and move them out to match the back vertices of the low poly. So we just really want that to be really as close as we can. There we go. So the idea now is we've got a high poly, right, and a low poly, and the low poly's back is off and the high poly is back is off, okay, and we thinned it out a little bit, cut it up, and so they're occupying the same exact space. So what I'm going to do is with the high poly select everything, okay, and we're going to go to combine, right? We're going to go to delete by typicity, freeze transformations, and that will be that, and we're going to go ahead and put that back in there again, add selected objects, there we go, so we can turn it off and on, and then open up our triangulated one, okay, and select that one, and we're going to combine it. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and after we combine it, right, so I think that looks pretty good. Alright, so let's go ahead and add that to the triangulated one. Very good. And we're going to go ahead and delete by type history and freeze transformations on that one. So now they're all set. We're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and export selection, okay, and we're going to do OBJ and export selection, and I want you to call it sci-fi hallway try all assets low poly. So I've already named it, but I made some changes, so I'm gonna go ahead and export that selection. It'll override it. Okay. Alright. Looks good. So that's awesome. And then the low poly, Then we're going to click on that. And this is the high poly, so I'm going to go export selection and make sure it's OBJ. Export selection. And sci-fi, try all assets, high poly. Click on export selection. I'm going to overwrite this other one. There we go. That may take a little more time. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn that off and turn the low poly back on. And even though I've got a back on there, it won't make a difference. I'll take the back off of here on the low poly as well. Let me do that now so I don't forget. I'm going to go ahead and do Control 1. And we'll select all the faces, and then marquee, select Control, holding down the Control key, and then that will just kind of show that, and we'll delete that part. Here we go. Here we go. So they're all the same. Awesome. And these all have their pivot point all set up, so we're good there. And so file, and we're going to do save scene as. This is going to be our final one. So 45. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, great. Alright, so I'm going to pause this and get into Substance Painter. So go ahead and open up Substance Painter. We got everything exported out. Okay, so we got Substance Painter all ready to go. And I'm going to go to File, New. And we're going to do PBR Metallic Roughness. Create a texture set per Udym tile. I'm going to go ahead and select my object, which is going to be the low poly, right? So we're going to do the sci-fi hallway, try all assets, low poly. That's the one that's all combined together. Open that up. And DirectX is fine, and then let's do 2048 by 2048. We don't have any other maps that we need to bring in as baked maps. We're going to bake them all in Substance Painter. And click OK. If you did everything right, you shouldn't have any errors when you bring them in, and everything looks pretty good. Let's get a little bit closer. You can see these edges are super sharp. Okay, and a lot of you ask me, why in the world we go to all that trouble to create a high poly? Even though I'm not adding detail, which I could bring all this stuff into Mudbox if I wanted to and add more detail, which would be fun. But some of us just don't have time. Okay. Notice that I've got my low poly with the little bars across. That's our variant. So we got both of our variants in there. So we're going to bake everything at once, which is unheard of. I mean, how would you like to bring everything in here separately? We have 16 pieces. You'd have to bring them in, bake the maps for each one. But I got it set up so we can do this very easily. Okay, you're going to love this. So we're going to do all the maps, Udym tiles. This is where it really shines. Otherwise, if you did the normal UV mapping way, it would you'd have to bake every one of these separately. 16 times you would have to open and close. You'd have to texture and close. So you'd have 16 times you'd have to do this. Okay? So we're going to save a ton of time. Here we go. Are you ready? I'm going to go ahead and bake those maps and get them ready to go. I'm going to move this over a little bit. So this is where Udym tiles really shine. Okay? Alright, so cool. Let's go in here. And we are going to bake all the maps. And you can see that I've got all my Udym tiles here. All 19 of them. And I'm just going to go into this icon right here where we're going to go ahead and bake our maps. Texture set settings. We're at 2048. That's great. Let's go ahead and bake mesh maps. We need normal map on. We don't need world space normal. We don't need an ID. We don't need an ambient occlusion. We do need a curvature map. We don't need position. We don't need thickness. We do want this to be 2048 by 2048. We've been through all this stuff. Let's go ahead and bring our high definition mesh in. Now if you get errors because your mesh, your high resolution mesh, isn't in the right in the middle of that object, okay? They have to be on top of each other, okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and use low poly. Nope, we don't want that one. We want high definition meshes. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and click on the high poly. Perfect. Okay, high poly. Alright, open it up. And everything looks good for me. Just everything's defaulted. And I've not changed anything except for the output size. Okay. And let's go ahead and bake all textures. When I click on that button, I'm going to go ahead and hit the pause key, the pause button, so you don't have to wait, because it will take a while. So bake all texture sets. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and bake all the texture sets. Okay, all 19 maps were created. Took a while to do it. Now let's take a look. Remember before the corners looked really sharp. Wow, look at this. The light is shining off of all of these normal maps. It's beautiful. It looks fantastic. I couldn't be happier. Look at that. What a great bake. I mean, it's perfect. Look at that. The light is shining right off of those. And all the details there. Wow. I couldn't be happier. This is one of the best bakes I've seen in a long time. Look at that. And the door, magnificent. Look at that. All the details there. There's a little bit of something right here. I'm not sure what's going on there. But wow, that looks really good. I could probably fix that in Photoshop. That's the only part I can see that doesn't look great. The rest of it looks fantastic. Couldn't be happier with that bake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Save Scene As. Okay. And we want to do hallway maps bake number. Let's go ahead and just overwrite that one. Yes, I did this before and I got a really bad bake off of the door, so that's why I took the back off. So this should work just fine. Go ahead and make sure to let it save for a while. It does take a while for Substance Painter to save the files. Alright, how do I want you to texture this? Any way you like, guys. The only thing, remember, this is interior. So remember, this is an interior scene, so no exposure. Excuse me, no exposure to outside elements. So I don't want to see any rust, okay? Unless there's a hole in the roof and it's been dripping, right? So let's not show any rust. Let's not go with any rust. And be careful with not adding, don't add so much wear and tear that it looks like it's been outside. So this is an inside piece, and so a little wear and tear, some scratches here and there, that's good. And whatever color scheme that you want to go with is entirely up to you. And this is where you're going to take it from here, right? You're going to take it from here. If you need help with applying stuff and working with stuff, please feel free to watch other videos, or you can watch the videos I still have with the crate if you have questions about. But I wanted to bake the maps for, and I wanted a video to bake the maps, and this is as far as I want to take you, because the rest of it is all you. You've already done the gun and you had fun with that. You guys did a fantastic job with that one. Again, just make this look like a sci-fi hallway. Okay, it's going to be a lot of fun. You guys are going to have fun with this, and we were able to bake everything at once. That's insane. So this is going to be a wonderful thing. It's not going to be hard. This is probably the easiest bake you've ever had, hopefully. Then you'll save your workout. Alright, so make sure you save your stuff. So File, Save As, and this will save your scene. Okay, and you want to do that because you worked hard to get to this point. So where is it? Where did I do hallway? There we go. We'll do number 2 on this one. Okay, great. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with and watch other videos that I have about applying the texture maps back on. Again, it's the same exact way you did with the crate, so I'll probably just use those videos. Unless I see something that goes wrong, then I'll do an update. Alright, have a great one, and I'll see you in the next video.